Hi, today we will explain the plot of the movie Freaky, which was released in 2020. Okay, let's get right to the story. On Wednesday, October 11th, four teenagers gathered at Ginny's luxurious home to share horror stories. Evan told Isaac, Sandra, and Evan's girlfriend Ginny about a notorious serial killer known as the Blissfield Butcher. The Blissfield Butcher began his reign of terror in 1977 in the town of Blissfield. However, Ginny quickly adds that the Blissfield Butcher is a local legend who triggers a new series of murders every year. The Blissfield Butcher was reportedly active in the 1990s and has been missing for 20 years. Joking around, Isaac wonders what kind of serial killer will be popular this year. In his excitement, Isaac spilled Sandra's drink, which annoyed her. Ginny immediately told her that there were other drinks inside, and Evan signaled for Isaac to accompany Sandra inside. To make a long story short, Isaac looked at Ginny's father's collection of valuable art objects, one of which was an antique knife named La Dola. Sandra asked Isaac to help her find a drink, but Isaac refused because Sandra was still sulking. Isaac left Sandra in another room where he found a wine cellar. With a smile, he took a bottle of wine and read the label. Suddenly, a masked man attacked him from behind. There was no mistake. It was the Blissfield Butcher. After killing Isaac, Blissfield Butcher targeted Sandra, who was in the bathroom. He banged on the door so hard that Sandra was startled. But before she could open it, Blissfield Butcher broke in and beat Sandra until she was no longer breathing. Meanwhile, Ginny and Evan had just finished having fun in the garage. They had a brief argument, but they suddenly went hysterical when Blissfield Butcher arrived and attacked Evan with a tennis racket. Ginny ran into the house and hid behind a secret door in the wardrobe. The man only saw a pile of clothes hanging there and then searched elsewhere. Feeling safe, Ginny emerged from her hiding spot. Soon, Ginny's parents' car entered the driveway, and Ginny ran toward the door while calling for her father. However, it was too late. Blissfield Butcher ambushed her and killed Ginny in an instant. After that, he entered the antique storage room and took the La Dola knife, while Ginny's parents screamed in horror at the sight of their daughter's gruesome death. The next day, a girl named Millie Kessler was getting ready for school. She lived with her mother and older sister Charlene, who was a police officer. She was going to attend her high school reunion, but her mother asked Millie to accompany her to the theater that evening. Finally, Millie told her friends Josh and Nyla that she couldn't go. At school, news of the tragic deaths of the four teenagers quickly went viral. Millie admitted she was deeply shocked because she had seen Sandra in class just 2 days earlier. Meanwhile, Josh shows a video of Ryler, the popular girl at their school, pretending to mourn Ginny's death. Josh concludes that the culprit is Blissfield Butcher, but Nyla isn't convinced because Blissfield Butcher is just a local legend. Millie returned home late at night after finishing her duties as the school sports team mascot. Her mother was supposed to pick her up, but by the time the stadium emptied, her mother hadn't arrived. It turned out that Millie's mother had fallen asleep after drinking too much alcohol. Charlene called Millie to tell her that her mother had fallen asleep, but unfortunately, Millie's phone battery had died, so she couldn't ask her sister to pick her up. While thinking about her fate, Millie saw the Blissfield Butcher staring at her across the street. Millie tried to shoo him away, but the Blissfield Butcher kept advancing while brandishing a knife. Millie immediately ran into the stadium and hid under a spectator seat. The Blissfield Butcher followed her to the seats, and Millie tried her best to stay silent. Soon, the Blissfield Butcher tricked Millie, leaving her unable to dodge. After successfully ambushing Millie, the Blissfield Butcher raised the La Dola knife, which skull eyes glowed red. Millie struggled violently, causing Blissfield Butcher's mask to fall off. He then stabbed Millie's shoulder, but strangely, Blissfield Butcher's shoulder also began to bleed. The sound of a gunshot fired into the air diverted Blissfield Butcher's attention. Charlene rushed to save her sister, while the man fled immediately, leaving the La Dola knife behind. Charlene carried Millie, who was still in shock, and the evidence. The tragedy of Millie quickly led to an argument between Charlene and her mother, blaming her mother's alcohol addiction. That night, Millie couldn't sleep soundly, haunted by the skull of La Dola's knife and the criminal who stabbed her, plus the whispers of a spell mentioning La Dola. The next morning, Millie woke up feeling disoriented, as if she didn't recognize herself or her surroundings. On the other hand, the Blissfield Butcher also woke up with the same feeling. It turned out their souls had been swapped due to the stab wound. Millie, now in Blissfield Butcher's body, immediately confirmed her appearance to her neighbor. Millie grew increasingly panicked because she was now a grown man. She then walked into town to seek help from someone she knew, but sketches of Blissfield Butcher's face had already spread everywhere, causing people who crossed paths with her to scream in fear. Millie's mother didn't really notice her daughter's strange behavior. That morning, Millie ate breakfast as if she hadn't eaten in a long time. Blissfield Butcher, who was now in Millie's body, looked excited when he saw the kitchen knife and almost stabbed Charlene. Despite the painful events she had just experienced, Millie's mother asked her to go to school and cheer herself up with her friends. Blissfield Butcher suddenly felt happy to hear that she had to go to school. Unlike Millie, who liked to dress simply and femininely, Blissfield Butcher chose a tomboyish outfit with a leather jacket and jeans. She also tied her hair up, making Millie look more attractive and praised by everyone, even Ryler, who had always teased Millie's appearance before. Blissfield Butcher then asked Ryler to take her to a secluded place so they could talk, so Ryler took her to the sports changing room. However, Ryler couldn't figure out why Blissfield Butcher was silent, instead teasing her as if interested. Ryler went to the bathroom and threatened Millie to tell him everything when he came back later. Meanwhile, the real Millie went to her school and sneaked in, going to shower in the sports locker room. Ryler accidentally saw her showering and panicked when he realized it was Blissfield Butcher. The real Blissfield Butcher tells Ryler to hide immediately. However, instead of being taken to a safe place, Ryler is told to hide in a cryo capsule with maximum cold temperature. After finishing her shower, the real Millie hears the sound of the cryo machine, then opens it, only to be shocked to see Ryler frozen solid, then shattering into pieces. The real Blissfield Butcher then entered the woodworking class and sat next to Booker, the young man Millie liked. At that moment, Booker was carving wood and accidentally cut his finger. Blissfield Butcher sucked the blood from Booker's finger, causing him to be scolded by the teacher, Fletcher. Meanwhile, Nyla confessed to Josh that Millie was acting strangely and she was worried about Millie's mental health. Suddenly, the real Millie approached them, asking Nyla to calm down. However, of course, Nyla and Josh immediately ran away in panic, thinking it was Blissfield Butcher, the killer. Millie tried to talk to them, but Josh and Nyla kept throwing things at her. The real Millie kept saying that she was Millie, their friend, only now she was as strong as the Blissfield Butcher. To prove that she was Millie, she danced the school team's mascot dance. Neela and Josh were stunned to see this, but to be even more certain, they asked her personal questions that only they knew and gave her their high five. Josh and Neela accompany Millie to the men's restroom while recounting how all the oddities unfolded. Quickly, Josh finds an article online about the La Dola knife, an ancient Aztec knife used for sacrificial rituals. On the knife is a text in Spanish that they cannot understand. Josh and Nyla showed the photo of the knife to Cayennes, their Spanish teacher. Cayennes explained that the text meant that if the sacrifice failed, the souls of the two people who had been swapped would become permanent after 24 hours. They rushed to pick up Millie from the restroom and told her the translation. Millie said the knife was at the police station, however. Instead of taking the knife, Millie thought it would be better to catch the Blissfield Butcher in Millie's body before he started killing people. At that moment, the real Blissfield Butcher was in the woodworking room and intended to harm Fletcher. Fletcher, who had never liked Millie, immediately kicked her out, but the Blissfield Butcher attacked him with difficulty as he was now in the body of a small girl. Fletcher fought back against the Blissfield Butcher, who relentlessly hurt him, but in the end, Fletcher died in a horrific manner. Exiting the room, the Blissfield Butcher came face to face with Millie, Nyla, and Josh. Blissfield Butcher screams for help while pointing at Millie. The police who are patrolling the school immediately respond and chase Millie, Nyla, and Josh. In the car, Josh suggests that Millie use a disguise to avoid being caught. An announcement is broadcast on the police radio, while Charlene sees Josh's car speeding past her. Josh sped up and stopped at a store, while Nyla and Josh told Millie to hide in a fitting room. Coincidentally, Millie's mother worked at the store. She accidentally started talking to Millie about her experience choosing a shirt for Millie's father, but all Millie's mother heard was the voice of an adult man. Though moved by her mother's story, Millie asked her to keep talking. Eventually, Millie's mother shared how her husband's death had changed everyone in the family, and she worried about her future after Millie went to college. The conversation made Millie's mother feel at ease, and she even suggested going on a date. But luckily, Charlene suddenly walked in and told her to hurry up and find Millie. Shortly after, Neela brought Millie a rubber mask, asking her to keep it on so they wouldn't get caught. In the parking lot, Josh showed Millie a story post on her school friend's Instagram where the real Blissfield Butcher was hanging out with some young men, including Booker, at a mini golf course. The kids were discussing their plans to hold a replacement party for the canceled alumni reunion due to the curfew. The Blissfield Butcher suggested they party at the secluded Old Mill. Meanwhile, Josh, Millie, and Neela rushed to the mini golf course, where they spotted the Blissfield Butcher on a CCTV camera monitor. At the course, there was a haunted house ride. This is where they saw the Blissfield Butcher hiding, targeting Booker from behind. Just as Blissfield Butcher is about to get Booker, Millie appears from the opposite room and, without hesitation, hits Blissfield Butcher. Josh tells Millie to hold Booker so he doesn't escape and report to the police. With her great strength, Millie pushes Booker until he faints. Millie, Nyla, and Josh take Blissfield Butcher and Booker to Josh's house, where they tie Blissfield Butcher to a chair and wait for Booker to wake up. Soon after, Booker wakes up. He gasps when he sees Blissfield Butcher's body in front of him, but Millie begs Booker to listen to her. On the other side, Blissfield Butcher also tried to distract Booker. Millie said she only had 6 hours left to swap her soul with Blissfield Butcher. Booker looked very confused, especially since Blissfield Butcher tried to convince Booker that he was Millie. Confused, Booker decided to leave, but Neela stopped him and persuaded Booker. Millie recited a poem she had written for Booker, but sent anonymously. Hearing the poem recited from memory, Booker finally believed her. Blissfield Butcher makes a sarcastic comment about the poem, causing Nyla to stuff a cloth into his mouth. After obtaining the bodies of the two swapped spirits, Millie and her friends devise a plan to steal Ladola's knife from the police station, needing a total of 40 minutes. Millie worries they don't have much time, but Booker says they have time if there aren't many police officers on duty at the station. Nyla asked Josh to watch the house while she, Booker, and Millie went to the police station. Booker was sure the police would be busy patrolling during curfew, so they waited until only one officer remained at the station, Charlene. Nyla then entered and told Charlene in fear that the Blissfield Butcher had kidnapped her and Josh, and he was now waiting at the back door. Charlene told Neela to hide under her desk while she checked. Meanwhile, at Josh's house, Josh's mother suddenly came home because her flight was canceled. She was confused as to why Millie was tied up, but Josh replied that they were role-playing. Josh's mother still didn't believe him and took a knife to untie Millie, yet without either of them knowing, Blissfield Butcher managed to grab the knife and untie himself. Josh's mother and Josh immediately ran to find shelter, entering a room and locking themselves inside. Blissfield Butcher, enraged because his body wasn't as strong as usual, eventually gave up and decided to leave them. Josh called Nyla to inform her that Blissfield Butcher had escaped. At that moment, Nyla managed to steal Ladola from the evidence closet. Unfortunately, Charlene entered and suspected something. She demanded Nyla tell the truth and return the evidence. Shortly after, Blissfield Butcher ran into the police station. Charlene thought it was her sister. She said she had tried to call Millie, but Nyla told Charlene that it wasn't her sister. Wanting to save her sister, Millie came down and entered the police station. Without knowing the truth, Charlene immediately tried to shoot Millie, while the real Blissfield Butcher grabbed the Ladola knife and ran through the back door. Charlene ordered Millie to go back into the cell, and with no other choice, Millie obeyed. Booker followed and distracted Charlene. As a result, Millie pulled Charlene and pushed her into the cell. Millie locked Charlene inside and followed Blissfield Butcher to the old factory party. Millie now has only 13 minutes left to swap her soul. Booker gives her his watch with a timer feature so she doesn't lose track of time. After that, they enter the party, and Millie warns her friends not to try to act tough when facing the Blissfield Butcher. At that moment, Blissfield Butcher and a group of young men who intended to beat up Millie arrived, but they ended up getting hurt instead. Blissfield Butcher took their bottles of liquor and attacked them one by one until none of them could fight back. Inside the party, Millie and her friends decided to split up and look for Blissfield Butcher. Thus, Millie went with Booker. They were shocked to see Booker's school friends lying dead, while Josh was taken by another student to an empty room. He claimed to have seen Millie but instead tried to harass Josh. The boy was killed when Blissfield Butcher suddenly emerged from behind the wall, wielding an iron hook. Enraged, Blissfield Butcher threatened Josh. Fortunately, Millie arrived just in time and demanded her body back. The Blissfield butcher accepted the challenge and told Millie to face him. Outside, 2 police officers on patrol entered the party arena. One of them saw Josh and Nyla and told them to stay where they were. However, Josh rushed to take Nyla to the back to escape. Millie duels with Blissfield butcher for the La Dola knife. Blissfield butcher rushes to escape, but Nyla and Josh, who are dodging the police, see them and help Millie chase Blissfield butcher. Soon, Josh and Nyla managed to hold Blissfield butcher back while Booker's timer went off. They thought they had run out of time, but Booker had told Millie that he always set his clock 5 minutes ahead, meaning they weren't late. Millie quickly stabbed Blissfield butcher in the shoulder just in time. Nyla gave Millie a test question to ensure her spirit had returned to her body, and she answered correctly. Just then, the 2 police officers who had been chasing Josh and Nyla saw them and shot the Blissfield butcher, bringing him down. After all the chaos, Charlene and her mother picked up Millie, unaware of what had actually happened. On the other hand, the paramedics who carried Blissfield butcher's body thought the serial killer was dead, even though the EKG monitor had not been properly attached. Blissfield butcher visited Millie's house that night and tried to kill her. Unfortunately, Charlene's gun jammed, and Blissfield butcher's immense strength was enough to overpower the 3 women in the house. However, Millie, who had once been in the man's body, quickly attacked his weakness. Together with her mother and Charlene, Millie worked together to fight back against Blissfield butcher until he was finally dead.